On this episode of AV Week, we take a look at hybrid learning and hybrid situations, whether you're going back to work or you're still working from home, what that means for you and your organization. Also looking at the evolution of retail and digital signage in the world of COVID-19. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 479, recorded Friday, October 23rd, 2020. Silent Disco.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Kramer, AV Beyond the Box, and by
Draper, focused on innovative solutions.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, Mr. Jeremy Caldera from IAS. Welcome, sir.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Also with us from USC, Mr. Josiah Way. How are you?
Hey, thank you very much, Tim. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Last time we saw Joel Norris, he had much less facial hair. So if you're not watching the video, his beard is rather epic. Just as someone who can't grow one, I want to acknowledge the fact that your beard now is epic. How are you, sir?
Thank you, sir. Doing very well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And last but not least, a young lady that I had on a special with the AVIT Summit, but I've never had her on AV Week. Rachel Harris technically works for a financial institution, but she also does a lot of work with education kind of on the side. So welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Awesome. Let's kick this off real quickly. The first story actually comes to us from Joe. Not for nothing, but it was a good article anyway, and he was coming on, so it worked. Sound and Communications. Joe talks about hybrid classrooms, and he might know a thing or two about that because how many did you put in this summer?
Yeah, just shy of 300.
There we are. That's a something there. So let's really, in all seriousness, let's kick this off with you, Joe. USC, and I'm going to try to parse through what you and I have talked about while we were recording and what you and I have talked about while we weren't, and make sure neither of us get in trouble here. But when the pandemic really hit the U.S., actually, technically, you and I were together in Southern California, along with our buddy Mark Coxon, having some wonderful chicken in Orange County, California. And I flew home from hanging out with you guys that Friday. Here in Illinois, we shut down that Monday, right? So that's how close this was. And talking with you over the last 6 months has been an interesting education because USC, like a lot of schools, they were just kind of trying to figure things out as they went along. Initially, you guys were thrilled because, holy cow, everybody's going home. You guys get to do a whole lot of work on campus, like I would have been when I was in your shoes. And then it was like, no, nobody's going on campus, right? You had to have a super secret pass from Governor Newsom, right, to get on campus at USC. And then it was kind of, you took it back from there. And now you guys, you spent the summer putting in, like you said, almost 300 rooms that are hybrid capable. Walk me through kind of that design process and the overarching, what problems were you trying to solve? There are some obvious answers to that. But really, what were some of the design decisions you guys made and why you went down the hybrid trail and how you did it so quickly?
Yeah. Tell you, it's been quite oh my gosh, can you believe 7 months now since then. But, our digital transformation actually began pre-pandemic. So this design, I always feel like I was the luckiest guy on earth because I already had an answer for it when this actually happened. So we began looking at how we could improve our spaces and the direction technology was going even beforehand. Like USC, surprisingly, we were really far behind. We had no lecture capture, no live streaming. We had nothing that everybody else, no wireless sharing that everyone was already doing. So I'd already kind of had a, let's say a blank check to start from scratch and to look into, software UC defined systems. And that was really what we were looking to do. And so when the pandemic hit, everyone was going, okay, scrambling, how are we going to solve this? And really for us, it was, okay, well, all we have to do to solve it is actually implement the plan we already have in place. And that really made it nice because, we can start a little early. We got our, exception to be on campus and hit it, and get it going. Now, the thought was never, what's going to happen if all of a sudden every student and faculty member has to disappear. It was, well, what if you could have a guest lecturer call in or things like that? The cute things, not global pandemics. And so what we really wanted to do was re-look at where, and I talk about this in the article, is, really what's the purpose? I think as AV people, we're really good at the what and how, and we're really bad at the who and why. Who are we serving and why are we serving them? And I think that was really the question we wanted to answer, is figuring out, where are they, where are they going to meet for their classes, and how can we end up, answering to, the why they're doing it, why they're learning, what they end up needing to do. And then we can find the solution from there. And that was really the secret to creating this online hybrid environment that thrives in the virtual world. It might have people based in the physical world, but thriving in a virtual world.
Rachel, I want to bring you on this for two different aspects, obviously the education part, but also from the corporate side. Like a lot of corporate, clients, a lot of folks went home and are still working from home. So as you guys look to either bring your folks back to the workplace or, working with some of the folks that you work with in education, what are you telling them as far as these are the needs that we have, or this is how we get you from point A to the point where you can either be hybrid or completely, remote?
Well, I think that the environment where I work did a really good job of figuring out that virtual is the stage very quickly. And, so as a result, we're going to be out of the office for a long time, well into 2021. And the idea is, even as the offices open back up, you're going to be working on your virtual stage at your workstation. So, and I think that the article really, in fact, I took one note, and the note was about how closely what was in the article matched what they were saying. And basically everything's a silent disco now. Same thing at work.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, when you're talking with clients, not only in the corporate space, but also in education, higher ed, how are you approaching this hybrid model? And are there any hurdles that you guys have to kind of jump over that you didn't have to a year ago when it comes to deployments?
For us, it's been a lot of not allocated funding for these projects, right? In Joe's case, they were great. It was great enough that they had this in place, right? In our case, it was, we'd like to do this, but we're not quite there yet. And then now, boom, you have to do it, right? So where do we get the money? How do we do it? The challenge for us, and my technicians all wanted to kill me at the time, was just, here's some gear, go figure out how to hook it up with what they got. You know what I mean? Do your best. And I hate that. I hate that as well. I love putting out fully engineered systems with drawings and project management and all this stuff. And my technicians love it because they get the how-to, point A to point B. This is what you do. Connect this, test this, you're done. That all went away this summer, right? For us, it was 5 major universities doing the same thing, hundreds of rooms. 90% of them were anything from throw a Hudley camera on the ceiling to get me whatever camera is actually in stock and figure out how to hook it up to the audio system that's already in place, right? Because we need to be ready to do hybrid learning. And they found the money, they did it, but they didn't do it right in all cases. So, okay, great for me, because I've always argued that commoditized equipment no longer makes integrators money, and it's on labor, and that's all labor figuring that all out, right? And now we're going to have to come back after the fact. It's unfortunate because we're going to see double spending of money, which no one ever wants to see, right? Now we need to go back a year from now, 2 years from now, because we know this isn't going away. And we're going to have to circle back around, and we're going to have to say, okay, how do we do this right? And again, it's going to be, we spent this money, so how do we use what we already bought, right? So from a design standpoint, for me, it was, knowing that that's going to happen, what can we attempt to put in now to help minimize the double impact of that cost?
Yeah, absolutely. Joel, from a manufacturing standpoint, one of the things that I've watched other designers and other institutions struggle with is not only do you have the hybrid model, but you've also got the social distancing in person. And here's where I'm going with this. Not for nothing, but Joel works for Shure. Shure primarily is a microphone company. They do have headphones, they do other things, but microphones is what they are 100%, the number one thing. You've got a situation now with, let's say that you are back in the office and you are back in a conference room, even though you're 6 feet away. Guess what else you're 6 feet away from? A microphone.
The microphone. Yep.
And you know, the one thing that from the Yamaha, you know, sound reinforcement guide on has taught me, the closer you get to the microphone to the source, the better overall the sound is going to be. As a manufacturer, how do you get that from, you know, and yes, you guys have got some solutions. I'll let you talk about that too. But how do we get to from, you know, the basic physics of audio, right,
Mm-hmm.
and translate that into a social distancing safe world?
It's really knowing the limitations and the feature set of the microphone or the system that you're installing, but also the features and limitations of the DSP that you're sending the raw audio from say, whether it's a Shure or whichever manufacturer of microphone. These microphones, they're still living in the physical world. They're not magic. If you are 10 feet or 20 feet away from a mic that's not suited for that capability, you're certainly going to have some tunnel effect, or it's just going to sound pretty bad. And you're going to have a bad user experience for both the person providing the content, but also the people who are learning on the other end.
Yeah.
So it's knowing the limitations, but also working with the manufacturer, like such as our ceiling array microphone that can pick up from great distances, but it's still a microphone that you should be aiming towards. It's really knowing the physics of how audio waves traverse through a space, knowing that you really should be looking at the acoustics of the space as well. You can't have a lot of reverberant walls and just everything concrete and glass, even though it looks great. But when you're dealing in an environment where people will be distant or will be a bit further away from each other, it's talking with the manufacturer, knowing the newest technology that's out there. We have a number of great microphones that can work either from the ceiling or mounted up a bit higher. They're not going to be like a gooseneck microphone or even the 7B that you're using there, where you have to be right up on it. There are certain like newer technologies that we have implemented that allow you to get a bit further away from the microphone, but still you have to be aware of its nuances and how it operates, and also the acoustics of the space, sometimes even more so than the microphone, because that space can dictate how well a mic can perform. Yeah. And also routing that to your DSP, knowing which processing, noise reduction, acoustic, echo cancellation, AGC, all of these other things that come with using a microphone, no matter the manufacturer. It's making sure that the integrators, the manufacturers, and the project managers are all talking together to say, hey, this is the best solution for you in this space. You have people that are, you have a lectern in the front, you have students who are in a row, maybe 6 feet apart or so. We need maybe additional microphones above them, or something that is right in front of them, say a gooseneck. But there's a number of talks that need to be had between all parties involved before we just put something out there. As Jeremy said, some things are going in at a very rushed, very fast pace without them sort of consulting either design engineers or the manufacturers themselves. So the more we can talk and the more we can work through those and hash out those issues, the better.
Yeah. I want to wrap around one thing, because both Rachel and Jeremy hit on this, and that is that rush to get, you know, product out and make sure that it's functional now, but then that come back around, that time where we have to go back and properly design it. Maybe where does that money come from? And here's what I'm asking. I'm primarily talking about education, because that is, I spent a couple of years in corporate, but mostly my real background, I was where Joe was, right? Not at USC, but I was, you know, a small community college here in Illinois. I understand that there are certain buckets, and each one of those buckets have limitations, right? So if you're having to go back and redesign and redeploy systems based on, you know, this rush to get to hybrid, where is that money coming from? Is it something where are these education institutions, these school districts are going to have to raise bond money, right? Where they've got to go out and basically ask their constituents, you know, we've got to raise cash capital. Is it from the corporate standpoint where they're just going to simply say, look, you guys, we're going to raise our prices, you know, overall, because we've got to make these changes, either from Rachel and Joe's standpoint, or Joel and Jeremy from talking with clients. Where do you guys see them being able to kind of maneuver the budgets to make sure that second round of funding, because it's going to come, is coming from?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll jump in because so many great points were made. When you recognize, even saying what Jeremy was taking, that so many people rush to solve a pandemic problem. They didn't really solve a problem. They just made things work. Right. And now what you're getting, it was really interesting because at the beginning of the pandemic, people reached out to me and say, hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm putting 910s, 710s and telemix room everywhere. And like, okay, it's great to be USC, and we're trying to find whatever we can find. Now, here's the thing. You know what emails I'm getting right now? Hey, can you show me the plans for your 910s, 710s and telemix room? Because now what's happened is schools have recognized that part of business continuity is now having to do the investment, right? You can't just say, did the webcam work for the last 8 weeks of class? Sure, it did, right? But now you have to figure out how we're going to solve this. We're never going back. Hybrid is a part of higher education forever. So now it becomes part of an investment. And that's where there's a lot of, a good integrator will go and build these partnerships right now because the money, if it's not coming right now, it's coming next year. That there's no doubt about it because now there's a keep up with the Joneses, which is very popular in higher ed generally. Now you have to. You can't be the institution that doesn't have fully equipped hybrid spaces. You just can't. You won't survive in a couple of years if you don't have that. And so we're seeing that, for us, we even increased our scope. And it happened basically is when I said, where's the money going to come from? And they said, the money's not the problem right now. Keeping the classes going is the problem right now. So let's solve it and we'll worry about the rest. And I'm hearing that same thing from my colleagues. And you're seeing a change in investment too, from just get us going to, all right, new designs, how our system's going to work going forward, make this, part of it. One thing I've been saying lately is, when you design a classroom or whatever, especially when, integrator designs it, a consultant designs it, the first thing you do to save money is cut the microphone and the ceiling mic and the camera from the bill of material. Yeah. And right. But now they're the first two things you better add. Right. So that's a complete change. And that probably means a 50% more, increase in a per classroom cost. By the time you've done that added programming, labor, and all of those, that's really good for our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to point out the fact that Joe Wade just said that the money is not a problem in higher ed. That may have been the first time anyone has ever
probably is a first
uttered that. So, all right. Next story actually still comes to us from Sonic Communications. Ben Gauthier, actually the headliner, one of the part of the Q division folks that's keynoting the AVN2, the AVNation, the AV Network Nation event that we're doing in combination with SCN December 10th. Writes about digital signage and really kind of how digital signage in retail has evolved during this pandemic. And I would read a quote here: COVID-19, quote unquote, exposed a weakness in retail, namely its difficulty adapting to a fast changing environment. Retailers and their partners can enable digital signage to change with the situation, driving messaging that instantly helps customers navigate the environment in the way you want them to. Mr. Caldera, you guys, IAS also has a digital signage component. Talk about for a second how you not just design a digital signage system to do those things, right? To be able to be kind of nimble and flexible, but also how you communicate that to your clients and make sure that they're ready if they need to be flexible, or they're ready to engage you when they need to make some changes.
Well, for us, it's a lot of recognizing the tools that are available, right? So, there's 1,000 digital signage companies out there, right? But there's only certain people that make the right hardware, especially the hardware that might be compatible with cloud-based solutions that can be deployed over campuses and deployed over an entire enterprise versus just a building or like a digital menu board, right? So having those right tools, I think, and educating the client on how to properly set those up, because it serves another purpose, right? Before we were talking about digital signage for mass notification, right? So think of all the tragedies that were happening around the schools, and digital signage became a tool for that, right? And for commerce too, they were using it just for simply menu boards or just to show the latest and greatest fashions and all this stuff here now. But if they understand the tools that they have and they can be deployed quickly and updated and changed with the right software, on a mass scale, that will just ultimately, I think, grow the market even more because, like you said, you can do so much more with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Rachel, when it comes to kind of, the Jeremy mentioned the fact that they were just using it for, menu boards. A lot of folks have been repurposing common spaces like cafeterias as well as larger auditoriums as we all kind of come back to work. When from your experience, where do you see kind of digital signage going, both the corporate side as well as education, as we move out of this pandemic and helping folks kind of get back to work safely?
Yeah, I mean, I think that digital signage is going to be extremely instrumental in really just helping people navigate around the buildings as they return to them. Everywhere you go, you're going to need instructions about how to enter, where to stand, and what to do. So I'm sure that in all different kinds of places, that will be a large use of digital signage, whereas we used to, let people know what events were coming up and things like that, but that'll be less important, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Joel, when it comes to, not only from the corporate side, but also working at with clients, when you guys start looking at retail and you start looking at, the different various spaces that not just digital signage, but, wayfinding and, making sure that clients have what they need to roll out. One of the things I've always found interesting is from a manufacturing standpoint, how you guys kind of partner with both both dealers as well as the end users. Kind of walk me through some of the steps to go from, again, the overarching what problem are you trying to solve down the road to where you have a full kind of a finalized solution that's been deployed all along the way, making sure that from a manufacturing standpoint you're helping out both the client and the and the dealer.
And it first comes down to is what Jeremy mentioned, knowing your tools and knowing what's available to you, but also the requirements of the end user and of the space that you're trying to outfit, digital signage or really any product that you have. It's the manufacturers and the integrators' sort of responsibility to work with the client and the stakeholders all the way down to the end user to say, these are the problems that you have. These are the newest technology or the newest pieces of gear that we have available to help you solve that solution. Going from point A, like these are the products, this is how you implement the product, all the way to this is how you sort of design the room with our product as well as the connection or the through point for sending our information or raw audio, be that any control interface information, to another third party, a third party's processor or something like that. Walking through that with them and giving them the sort of the confidence that a solution from Shure or a solution from any other microphone or manufacturer will indeed give them the best audio quality or the best user experience, say for any students or content providers. And then once we sort of find those requirements from the stakeholder, from the end user, really getting it down to the rep or the dealer to provide them the tools at the best cost, and then still not necessarily hand holding them, but taking them through the process all the way to the end to implementation and say, all right, we have the product installed in your conference room or in your classroom. This is how it sounds. We have market development people who can actually go on site and sort of tweak and help bring the system to its best performance ability based on what the customer needs and the end user needs, and working with them all the way till maybe even the first meeting or first few classes and saying, this is an ecosystem basically that you are outfitting for them, and we can help provide from A to B, whether it is just our ecosystem or whether we're communicating with other third-party entities. It's having and building the confidence in them that they can install our system to the best of their abilities and ours.
Yeah, I like that. Not only your ecosystem, but you can be a part of a larger ecosystem even as well. So, yeah. Mr. Way, you'll have the last word on this. From wayfinding to mass notification, as Jeremy said. Talk for a second about, not just from a higher ed standpoint, maybe even USC specifically, because larger universities tend to have silos of different colleges, right? College, School of Business, School of Nursing, School of political science or whatever, and sometimes those have little fiefdoms about who controls what. So talk about from a campus-wide deployment when it comes to digital signage. Where do you see that going over the next couple of years as we do try to do mass notification for security, but also for health reasons?
Yeah, it's interesting. In the article, there's a really good line that just says, new customer behaviors come new opportunities and expectations. And I really think that that's it. If you look at what's going on today, even in just a society, how often did we pre-pandemic walk around and you didn't pay attention to billboards? You never paid attention to signage anywhere. And now we're hypersensitive to it. You walk in a store and you look and see what's on the front to see, okay, am I supposed to wear a mask here? What's going on? What are the protocols? You see, the little dots on the floor 6 feet away. We're so hypersensitive to making sure that we're understanding the message coming out at us. Well, that's really a leverage point and a new opportunity that we can use in order to continue, in order to either, if you were in a retail side, be able to use that for your customers to gain customers, but also just from a mass notification side, people are paying attention to it. We have slides, and I kid you not, like you said, we are a federated environment. I control about half of the signs, pretty much all the ones in the general areas, but there are some that are department specific that are still advertising club meetings from 2018. Okay. And there's nothing I can do about it. But hopefully they had a good turnout. They've been advertising it for 2.5 years. So really, what are you going to do? But here's the thing. I think everyone notices that now because you're sensitive to, okay, what's the message coming at me? So if we can use relevant information and you can use that in a way that we rethink what people want to know. I mean, I think the whole article even closes with another great line of, customers are expecting dynamic, timely, and relevant content. It can no longer be the 30 slide roll just because to share about something. It's give me information that's important to me right now. What do I need to know and how is that going to impact me? So I think that that's a change that needs to happen. And it's one that I have a team and you've had, Lexion, she's an amazing woman who oversees that for our campus. And, we're in the process of, bringing that together, centralizing it, consolidating it so that we can be more consistent with our messaging and more specific with the messaging based on the person and the place that they're at. And I think that's where we need to move. And I really think that's in general. I think that's digital signage in general in our society.
That'll be a good place to stop. Thank you all so much. Joel, thank you, sir. It's always good to see you.
Indeed, you too. Thank you.
Sure. How do people get a hold of you or Shure?
You can reach us at either shure.com/contact. That goes to our support team, which I'm a part of, and a number of other engineers who work with all of the product line in our ecosystem, basically.
All right. Very good. Mr. Caldera, thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
How do people get a hold of you or IAS or anything else you want? Your kid's soccer team, whatever.
Well, it's iastechnology.net, or you can follow me on Twitter, which is @Jeremy_Caldera.
All right, very good. Rachel, very good to have you on this program. So thank you so much. How do people get a hold of you?
Thanks. I am occasionally on Twitter @RHarrisPro. That's the best way.
Occasionally. I wish I was on occasionally. Someone who's not on occasionally is Mr. Joe Way. So how do people get a hold of you, sir?
Yeah, you can find me on all the socials @Josiah Way. Pick your favorite one. I'm there.
And also check out his podcast, Higher Ed, and HETMA, and your brand spanking new magazine. So how do people get a hold of that?
Yeah, you can find that at Higher Ed AV on all the socials or higheredav.com. I'm really excited to expand the podcast into a digital magazine with a lot of great content providers and content relevant to our vertical specifically. So find there and can find everything else through that.
Yeah, they've got some really great stuff. So, and I would be remiss. And I made the joke that last time Joe and I saw each other, we were eating chicken sandwiches with Mark Coxon, and Joe and I were together. We were quite hefty, and now neither one of us. Well, I'm not going to say neither one of us are, but you've lost an awful lot of weight, sir. So you look great. I want to point that out.
And yourself.
The rest of you look great too, but when you've got two fat guys and we've lost weight, I think you look fantastic. So thank you all. For us, for AVNation, don't follow me on the Twitters. The Bears are 5-1. That's all I care about right now. And that's all you're going to hear. Exactly, Joel. But go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others, including our other weekly Resi Week that Matt Scott takes a look at the residential industry. I mentioned the fact that Ben Gauthier and Manny Almagro are going to keynote an event that we're doing December 10th. You can sign up for it now at avnetworknation.com. We're partnering with SCN and our buddy Megan Dutta from over there. So her and I are going to be doing a number of panels, and you can get between 4 and 5 CTS RUs. We haven't heard back from Avixia yet on how many there are. Panels will be on how we get back to work safely after COVID, AV over IP, and where the different technologies fit into our everyday lives. And I'm doing that panel. So, and my 2 cents is that no, 10 gig doesn't belong everywhere, and no 1 gig doesn't belong anywhere. So we're going to discuss where they all go. Also, AV network or audio network security with a couple of really great folks. So you can check that out at avnetworknation.com. And just yesterday, we announced that we're doing another one of these because I guess they like us. I don't know. We're doing another one. But we're doing one on digital signage March 4th. You can check that out. So all that and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.